This is Andy Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Joseph Parker here in Saudi Arabia. Joe, good to see you. 2 weeks
Good
on.
to
How are
see
you
you.
doing?
I'm doing great. I think it's amazing to be here, and I'm looking forward to watching these fights.
Obviously, if there's anyone's opinion who is kind of most valid going into the Wilder-Zhang fight, it's yourself.
Yeah,
You fought both men recently. You came out on top in both fights. What's your thoughts on them two crossing
it's
paths
quite
now?
like I've got different views on that fight. Like Zhang, powerful. They both have the ability to knock each other out. I feel like with this fight, Wilder looks different approach, and Zhang has trimmed down, so probably conditioning is a lot better. But I have to lean towards Wilder in this fight.
What makes you lean towards Wilder?
I I feel that Zhang has good movement, but doesn't have the best movement, head movement. And if Wilder can line him up and catch him with the right hand, I think that's what's going to happen.
Zhang isn't somebody who's known for kind of having like fast feet, shall we say, as opposed to yourself.
It's deceptively fast though.
That's what I was about to ask you. What can you talk to me about his footwork?
Zhang's footwork, it doesn't look fast, but he's very good at closing the distance, and he can keep you at bay when I fought him. So it doesn't look fast, but it is in a sly way.
Obviously, with Deontay as well, one of the big talking points when you two shared ring was kind of his timing being off. He had a long time out of the ring, went into that fight. Was it? What's it like trying to stay focused for 12 rounds and be wary of that destructive right hand?
I think that even just staying focused of every second, every minute of every round drains energy. So we had to practice it a lot in our sparring and in our training in camp with Andy Lee and George Locke. I got my conditioning up, but I had to be very focused because everything that Deontay throws is powerful. I caught a lot of the shots, but there are a few shots that slipped through. Didn't really catch me clean, but I definitely felt the power.
It's a fight which is obviously divided opinion. Do you understand why people are looking at it as a 50-50 now and maybe a crossroads path where, in Deontay's case, he's speaking about if he loses, retirement?
Retiring, yeah. The loser of this fight, I feel, was going to be pushed closer to retirement, and or probably fight on smaller shows, which will probably be hard after fighting at this level. And the winner of this fight still has a big chance to become champion of the world.
When, throughout any of Deontay's defeats in his career, whenever you've heard him speaking about what's next, he never mentions the word retirement. If a fighter starts to mention that word, does it suggest, or is it maybe people looking into it, or myself looking into it a bit too much, that maybe he's got one foot out of the door?
I don't think he has one foot out of the door, but he is looking at, just looking at his career and looking at options of what happens if he loses the fight. So I don't think he has. I think he's fully focused on this fight, and I feel like he's got something to prove. Like, they both have a lot to prove in this fight, but I feel like I could see Wilder's a little different leading into this fight and this week.
Zhilei Zhang, we spoke to him earlier this week, and he said that your rematch clause with him is not dependent on whatever happens here, isn't affected by the fact that he's fighting on Saturday night. Is that the case? That's still a valid, on his behalf, he can call that rematch clause whenever he wants to?
I guess he can. In the contract, yeah, it says there was a rematch. So I guess he can. I'm not sure if anyone wants to see that fight again, or what happens. It depends on what happens with his next fight. I think he has to focus on Wilder, because it's a dangerous fight for both guys.
I think one thing that everybody's learned, he certainly seems to get El Sheikh centred for seeing any fight that he wants to see, he will make. So with that in mind, where does your career go from here?
You know what? I have absolutely no idea. I'm not like, I think once the heavyweight scene and you see all these fights happening, and then you'll see the winners and the losers, I think that'll make it a lot easier and better, like, to pick, a top fighter or someone who's doing real well. So, but at the moment, I have no idea. I'm just training and building in New Zealand with George Lockhart and staying ready. And when the fight time comes, I'm going to be bigger, faster, stronger, and everything else that's good.
Is it frustrating not having kind of a new date to look forward to?
Sometimes it can be frustrating, but at the moment we're using it as a time to build. And when it'll come, a fight date and an opponent will come. We just have to be patient.
I have to ask you, Joe, it's not a fight which has been mentioned. When we've got the Wembley show, which is going to have a press conference for come June 25th, I believe, Turkey had mentioned. It's believed Anthony Joshua is going to headline, and all the talk is him versus the winner of Dubois versus Hrgovic. But I've been a huge kind of fan of seeing you two run it back. Have there
Yeah.
been any conversations of you two potentially crossing paths?
I have. I've asked for it, but whatever the plans are that Turkey has in place will be. So I'm not too sure what's happening, and I'd love to rematch Joshua and Dillian White, Joyce in the future, just to avenge those losses that I've had to the three guys.
Out of those losses, which one would you say hurts you the most?
I would say the Joyce fight, because I wasn't myself in that fight, and I'd love the opportunity to do it again, to show how good I know I can be.
He's obviously got his fight with Chisora coming up again, and somebody else, what do you make of the Joyce and Chisora fight?
I think Derek has been great for boxing, and he's still got the passion and the love for it, but just not sure how much he has left, and so it's tough. It's tough. Joyce is a big, strong man. He just keeps coming forward, but who knows? Be interesting to see what those fights with Zhang took out of him. We saw him with Cash Ali and got the win, but it wasn't the most entertaining fight. I've had fights in my career where I haven't been entertaining, but I was just Joyce's fight.
Just swinging back to the Anthony Joshua question, how often have you kind of maybe pushed for that rematch?
I've pushed for the rematch with Joshua many times.
More so since kind of Saudi's introduction to boxing, or?
Yeah, I have pushed for it, but again, we just have to respect what everyone's plans are, and all I can do is just stay ready, stay building.
I'm sure there's a belief at some point you will cross paths again.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope we cross paths. We've seen each other here in Saudi many times, and we've both fought on the same card, and both got good wins. So who knows? It can happen in the future, but we'll see.
Going back to the rest of the heavyweight scene, Dubois-Hrgovic, what are your thoughts on that fight?
That's a 50-50 fight. Dubois has been more tested as a heavyweight in the heavyweight scene, and Hrgovic, he's got a massive amateur background, and he's done well for himself in the professional ranks, but just it's a 50-50 fight. Who do you have?
I slightly favour Filip Hrgovic.
That's it. I'll slightly favour him, but you can't count Dubois out. In his last fight, he showed he's got that dog in him when it got real tough and hard in there. So you can't count him out.
Go back 2 weeks, Joe. Obviously, somebody you know well fell short in their undisputed fight, Tyson Fury. A bit of time to kind of reflect. Obviously, I imagine a couple of conversations with the team. How do you look back on Fury-Usyk now?
Oh, listen, it was that fight finished off the night amazingly well. It was a very both guys had their moments in the fight. Usyk started strong. Tyson boxed and moved and used the ring, and then Usyk, finished off very strong. Caught him in that 9th round, which was crazy how he was able to survive, and it just shows the heart of the two guys.
Joe, at that moment, kind of when you got to like the 6th, 7th round, it seemed like that Tyson had got into his groove, was starting to kind of take control of the fight. I mean, Usyk just found an extra 3-4 gears, not just 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Was it a surprise to you to see Alexander really turn the fight in his favour at that moment?
Listen, Alexander's a smart operator, and similar thing to in the Joshua fight, where he was able to, 2nd, 3rd, 4th gear, and it just shows the conditioning that he has, and his ability is incredible.
How tiring can that be? That constant front foot pressure, the feint up and down. How
I think it's
tiring?
very, very tiring. But again, he's a professional, and he's done this for the longest time, and it's just a good fight. I'm looking forward to watching the rematch.
The 9th round was obviously a big talking point as well. Obviously, when we saw Tyson visibly hurt, what was going through your mind in that moment? And I assume in your behalf, you agree that it was a right decision not to stop the fight.
Yeah, I think I feel that when you have an undisputed fight like that, you give the fighter every opportunity to fight on. And I don't see anything wrong with the ninth round or anything wrong with the fight. And it was a very entertaining fight.
One of the talking points after the fight was kind of the corner of Tyson. Obviously, your trainer Andy Lee, Sugar Hill, and John Fury all together. What have you made of some of the criticisms which have been thrown towards everybody in that corner?
Yeah, listen, the corner work it's quite hard when you got Sugar, then you got your dad, and your dad sees it differently. Your dad's, if it was my dad in the corner, he'll be, you can't watching your son go to war. It'll be quite hard. So I guess they have to sit down as a team and discuss what they're going to do moving forward. Whether it's he's got Sugar, and whether whoever's in the corner maybe one voice.
We've got that rematch, obviously, touted for that December 21st date, provided there's no hiccups along the way. So, what happens in the rematch come December 21st?
What happens in a rematch? Tyson will win.
How much do you feel that he learned from that first fight?
Oh, you have to learn a lot from that first fight, And now that I think both guys are going to come in a lot better. Like when you have experienced 12 rounds with someone, you're going to come in a lot better in the second fight. Both guys will be. But I've got Tyson winning the fight.
All right, Joe.
Rematch.
It's a pleasure as always. I know you're a busy man. You've got a few interviews to do now, so thanks for speaking to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.